Amid the flashing lights of Paris Fashion Week in the late 92nd, a face emerged that made the entire room hold its breath. It wasn't the doll-like perfection that stopped them, it was the aura, a rare blend of Scottish aristocratic grace and the rebellious energy of a street artist. Honor Fraser, born into a family with a noble title, had chosen to step into a world where glamour and scandal danced hand in hand. That day, wearing a Chanel haute couture gown, she moved down the runway with long, deliberate strides, her gaze cool, yet carrying a spark that no one could quite define. The photographers weren't just capturing a model, they were capturing a statement. Among hundreds of other beauties, Honor wasn't just selling a dress, she was selling a story, that power, class, and fashion could coexist, but could just as easily suffocate the one who possessed them. Few knew that before she stood in that sea of light, Honor had lived a childhood far from serene, a childhood in which the castle walls were not enough to shield her from the storms of fate waiting on the horizon. In the glittering yet perilous world of the 90-second supermodels, her presence was a reminder that even in an industry celebrated for beauty, there was always a dark side of fashion, and Honor was about to step right into it. Honor Fraser was born in 1973 on a centuries-old estate in Scotland, where moss-covered stone walls stood against the cold, salty wind sweeping in from the North Sea. She was the youngest daughter of a noble family, carrying the Fraser name, a lineage tied to history, influence, and old-world privilege. From the outside, Honor's childhood looked like a picture-perfect painting, purebred horses, grand banquets, and bespoke ball gowns. But behind that elegant facade lay spaces of silence gaps that neither wealth nor titles could fill. From an early age, Honor was different from the other girls in her world. While they delighted in formal dances and the rituals of afternoon tea, she often slipped away to the castle's attic, spending hours leafing through the fashion magazines left behind by her sister, Flora Fraser. Images of Jean Shrimpton, Twiggy, and Jerry Hall opened a secret door for her, a world where women were admired not just for their birthright, but for their individuality and magnetic presence. Not everyone in her family encouraged her curiosity. Her parents expected their youngest daughter to follow tradition, attend a prestigious school, marry a gentleman of equal social standing, and preserve the perfect image of the family line. To them, the modeling world was a frivolous stage, unworthy of the Fraser name. But within Honor, there was a quiet defiance. She secretly took notes on style, practiced her walk down the castle's long stone corridors, where the golden light of sunset transformed her nightgown into runway attire. At her all-girls boarding school, she stood out not only for her 1.80-meter height, but also for the determined gaze of someone who knew what she wanted, even if the path was still unclear. By her teenage years, Honor realized that her looks were more than an accident of birth, they were a passport. The refined nose, high cheekbones, curved lips, and an enigmatic mix of detachment and mystery drew stares wherever she went. But to her, beauty wasn't simply a gift, it was a key to escape the gilded cage she had been living in. A family upheaval, the divorce of her parents, pushed her even further toward independence. While many in her class would have hidden away to protect the family's dignity, Honor felt a stronger pull toward the outside world, one where her surname meant little and success would be earned, not inherited. For Honor, fashion was both a dream and a means of liberation. She didn't yet know it, but she was preparing herself to step into the universe of the 90-second supermodels, where elegance and notoriety were often two sides of the same coin. And somewhere in that glittering realm, the dark side of fashion waited, ready to test her resolve. In 1994, Honor Fraser was studying in London when an art exhibition altered the course of her life. She had no intention of standing out. That day, she wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back, but her aristocratic poise and striking height made her look like a living portrait among the abstract works on display. In the crowd, a sharp-eyed man clutching a thick portfolio approached her. He was a scout from Storm Model Management, the agency that had discovered Kate Moss. His offer wasn't just a business card, it was a promise to open the door to the international fashion world. Initially, Honor reacted with the caution of someone raised within rigid boundaries. She knew her family would object. Indeed, when her mother heard the news, she said bluntly, "Fraser girls do not chase cameras. We appear in society pages, not to sell clothes." But inside, Honor felt a new surge of energy. She remembered the nights spent practicing her walk down the castle corridors, the thrill of imagining herself under stage lights. This opportunity was the ticket out of the gilded box that had confined her for so long. After weeks of deliberation and heated arguments with her family, Honor signed a trial contract with Storm. On her first day in the studio, she experienced a rush of both nerves and freedom. The photographer told her to keep her face cool but let her eyes tell their own story. In that instant, Honor found the truest version of herself. From that very first shoot, whispers about the aristocrat-turned-model spread quickly through London's fashion circles. Magazines were curious why a woman born in a castle would choose to stand under the glaring runway lights. Invitations for fittings and advertising campaigns began pouring in. A pivotal moment came when she was invited to a fitting for Vivienne Westwood's autumn-winter collection. The legendary designer, known for dismantling fashion norms, was instantly captivated by Honor's rare mix of refinement and razor-sharp gaze. Within minutes, Westwood decided Honor would open the show. That night, amid elaborate corsets and boldly structured gowns, Honor Fraser walked like a queen. The cheers, the camera flashes, and the murmurs about the noble girl filled the room. It wasn't just a debut, it was a declaration that she had entered the game, where in the world of 90-second supermodels, the lines between royalty and street, tradition and rebellion were forever blurred. In stepping onto that stage, she also stepped closer to the dark side of fashion, a place where glamour could elevate you to the heavens or consume you entirely. After her striking debut with Vivienne Westwood, Honor Fraser's career ignited like wildfire. Within just 2 fashion seasons, she had graced the runways of all 4 fashion capitals: Paris, Milan, New York, and London. Her long, decisive strides carried both the dignity of an aristocrat emerging from a palace and the magnetic force of a modern icon. Major designers began competing to book her. Versace brought Honor into its spring-summer campaign, where she wore shimmering metallic gowns, radiating power and sensuality. Chanel adored how she could wear a classic tweed suit, yet exude a subtle defiance that broke every rule. Dior chose her to open their haute couture show, transforming Honor into a living sculpture among handcrafted masterpieces. But she didn't just conquer the runway, she conquered the editorial world. In 1996, she appeared on the cover of Vogue Italia, her cool gaze and voluminous hair creating an image that became one of the decade's most iconic. Harper's Bazaar hailed her as the perfect intersection of classic elegance and rebellion. What set Honor apart from other 90-second supermodels was her refusal to be boxed in. If Kate Moss embodied the waif-like fragility and Naomi Campbell radiated storm-like force, Honor represented silent power, the kind of magnetism that made people go quiet, as though they were standing before a work of art. By the late 92nd, her schedule was relentless. One morning she might walk in Milan. By evening she was at an after-show party in New York. Paparazzi loved catching her leaving hotels in everything from flowing silk gowns to tough leather jackets, never repeating a look. Her fame also brought offers beyond fashion. Luxury beauty contracts, cameo film roles, even proposals to write a memoir. But Honor was selective, taking only projects that reflected her true self. At this point, many believed Honor Fraser was destined to become one of the era's immortal icons, alongside Linda Evangelista and Claudia Schiffer. Yet, in the very heart of the glamour, she could feel the shadows lengthening. For every standing ovation, there was also exhaustion. For every glossy magazine spread, whispers of the dark side of fashion grew louder. While many models of her time chose to adapt quietly to keep their place, Honor Fraser became known for her candor and her willingness to make decisions that defied industry norms. She was not the kind of model who stayed silent when something felt wrong, and that made her both respected and feared. Once, during a high-profile ad campaign shoot for a luxury brand, the creative team insisted that Honor bleach her hair platinum blonde to better fit the new trend. She refused instantly. "If you want platinum hair, find someone else. I'm here to bring my image, not to become a copy of someone else." That refusal cost her a contract worth tens of thousands of dollars, but it earned her admiration from photographers and certain designers who valued authenticity. Honor also resisted the extreme pressure to lose weight. At the height of the heroin chic era, when skeletal frames were the prevailing standard, she stood firm in maintaining a healthy body and refused to force herself into punishing diets. In an interview with The Guardian, she said, "I won't turn myself into a walking skeleton just to fit a dress. If a dress doesn't fit me, maybe the problem is the dress." Her difference extended to the way she chose her projects. Instead of signing long-term contracts with one brand for stability, she preferred working with a wide range of designers from powerhouses like Chanel, Prada, and Alexander McQueen to up-and-coming independents. This kept her image versatile, but also made certain major brands view her as unpredictable. Another reason she became a thorn in the side of some industry giants was her outspokenness about fashion's hidden flaws. At a sustainability forum, she criticized the industry's wastefulness, pointing out the tons of fabric discarded each season for fleeting trends. She also highlighted the harsh realities faced by young models, from mental health struggles to the lack of legal protections in their contracts. Such statements sometimes led to her being excluded from shows, but Honor never regretted speaking her mind. "If I stood still and just smiled, I'd have more contracts. But I'd hate myself," she once said. Her uncompromising stance turned Honor Fraser from a beautiful model into a symbol of individuality, a woman who didn't just walk the runway, but walked past every limit the industry tried to impose on her. In the glittering world of the 90-second Supermodels, she was proof that strength could be as captivating as beauty, even if it meant confronting the dark side of fashion head-on. In the early 2000s, while still at the height of her career, Honor Fraser began appearing less frequently on the runway. At first, the fashion world assumed it was a strategy limiting her appearances to make each one a special event. But soon, rumors spread. Whispers of exhaustion, mental strain, and silent rifts between her and major fashion houses. A turning point came in 2001 when Honor refused to participate in a global advertising campaign for a luxury brand, believing the imagery relied too heavily on provocation to sell. The decision erased a six-figure contract overnight and ignited controversy. Some journalists praised her conviction. Others claimed she had shut the door on her own career. Meanwhile, her personal life became tabloid fodder. Gossip columns trailed her relationships with a high-profile businessman and her solo appearances at events. This relentless scrutiny pushed Honor further into seclusion. Friends revealed she started declining fashion parties, preferring to spend evenings reading or painting instead of facing cameras. Another factor in her retreat was a growing disillusionment with the very industry she once idolized. Honor admitted that after years inside, she saw fashion for what it truly was. Fashion can be art, but it can also be a machine that grinds people down. All. She witnessed younger colleagues pushed into extreme weight loss, burnout, and uncertainty after just a few seasons. In 2003, without fanfare, Honor Fraser left the runway. There was no farewell show, no final editorial spread. She simply disappeared from fashion schedules and magazine covers. Critics called it a quiet exit, but for Honor, it was the only way to preserve the parts of herself that the spotlight could never touch. She relocated to Los Angeles and opened her own art gallery, focusing on showcasing contemporary artists who rarely got the attention they deserved. In curating exhibitions, she rediscovered the creativity and freedom she had once sought in modeling. Though she occasionally appeared at charity galas or gallery openings, Honor never returned to modeling full-time. For many, her image remains frozen in the golden years of the 90-second Supermodels, a noblewoman turned icon whose story is also a reminder of the dark side of fashion, where even the brightest lights cast long shadows. Today, when people speak of Honor Fraser, They recall not only a model who once graced the most prestigious runways, but also a symbol of pride and self-determination. She refused to let the industry define her and never allowed the spotlight to erase her identity. Her Los Angeles gallery has become a haven for emerging artists, reflecting Honor's belief that creativity must be tied to freedom. Many young talents have said it was her straightforwardness and independence that inspired them to pursue their own paths, regardless of obstacles. In the collective memory of fashion, Honor remains the rebellious aristocrat, a woman who turned the runway into a stage for individuality rather than just a platform for clothes. Even as time has faded many names, the image of Honor in that Chanel gown at Paris Fashion Week still lives on in archives, an enduring snapshot of an era when 90-second supermodels reigned supreme. Perhaps the lingering question is this: if Honor Fraser were to rise in today's world of social media and digital speed, would she choose a different path? Or would she still walk, head held high, toward the light she chose for herself, fully aware that the glow always comes with the dark side of fashion?